Hello and welcome to Columbine United Church's podcast of We Make the Road by Walking by Brian McLaren. We've been using the book since September to guide our preaching and our teaching and our small group work. We're going to be using the book actually all through next year into August, so it's going to be a year-long journey with us for We Make the Road by Walking. The purpose of this podcast is so that you can listen to the chapter as well as read the chapter, or maybe do both as a way of kind of rounding out your understanding of the chapter. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 14, Promised Land, Promised Time. Now, before I dive in, I want you to think about this is the first Sunday of Advent coming up. It's the Sunday of Hope, the Sunday of Hope. We light the candle of hope. What are you hoping for in your life? What are you hoping for? That's the whole purpose of today's chapter, is to get us to think about hope and where hope is in our lives. So let's dive in. The scripture passages that McLaren wants you to read are Daniel, the 7th chapter, verses 9 through 28, Isaiah, the 40th chapter, verses 9 through 11, and Luke, the 1st chapter, verses 67 through 79. So give those passages a read and then maybe return back and listen to the podcast. All right, here's McLaren. To be alive is to desire, to hope, and to dream. And the Bible is a book about desires, hopes, and dreams. The story begins with God's desire for a good and beautiful world of which we are a part. Soon, some of us desire the power to kill, enslave, or oppress others. Enslaved and oppressed people hope for liberation. Wilderness wanderers desire a promised land where they can settle. Settled people dream of a promised time when they won't be torn apart by internal factions, ruled by corrupt elites, or dominated by stronger nations nearby. Desires, hopes, and dreams inspire action, and that's what makes them so different from a wish. Wishing is a substitute for action. Wishing creates a kind of passive optimism that can paralyze people in a happy fog of complacency. Everything will turn out fine. Why work, struggle, sacrifice, or plan? Guess what happens to people who never work, struggle, sacrifice, or plan? Things don't normally turn out the way they wish. In contrast, our desires, hopes, and dreams for the future guide us in how to act now. If a girl hopes to be a doctor someday, she'll study hard and prepare for medical school. If a boy dreams of being a marine biologist someday, he'll spend time around the sea and learn to snorkel and scuba dive. Their hope for the future guides them in how to act now. They align their lives by their hope, and in that way their lives are shaped by hope. Without action, they would be wishing, not hoping. Prophets in the Bible have a fascinating role as custodians of the best hopes, desires, and dreams of their society. They challenge people to act in ways consistent with those hopes, desires, and dreams. And when they see people behaving in harmful ways, they warn them by picturing the future to which that harmful behavior will lead. One of the most important prophetic compositions was the book of Isaiah. Most scholars today agree that at least 3 people contributed to the book over a long period of time, but their combined work has traditionally been attributed to one author. The first 39 chapters of Isaiah are situated in the southern kingdom of Judah, just before the northern kingdom of Israel was invaded and colonized by the Assyrians. The prophet saw deep spiritual corruption and complacency among his people, and warned them this kind of behavior would lead to decline and defeat. That defeat came in 587 BC at the hand of the Babylonians. After the invasion, many survivors were taken as exiles to Babylon. Chapters 40 to 55, often called Second Isaiah, addressed those Judean exiles, inspiring hope that they would someday return to their homeland and rebuild it. That soon happened, beginning in 538 BC, under the leadership of Ezra and Nehemiah. That era of rebuilding was the setting of 3rd Isaiah, chapters 56 through 66. For readers in later generations, ingredients from these 3 different settings blend into one rich recipe for hope, full of imagery that still energizes our imagination today. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. A shoot shall come out of the stump of David's father Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him. The wolf shall lie with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. That's from Isaiah the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 2, 6, and 9. Here is my servant who I uphold, my chosen in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will not cry or lift up his voice or make it heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice. Isaiah 42, 1 through 3. Isaiah's descriptions of that better day were so inspiring that Jesus and his early followers quoted Isaiah more than any other writer. But many other prophets added their own colors to this beautiful vision of hope. In Ezekiel's vision, people's hearts of stone will be replaced with hearts of flesh. For Malachi, the hearts of parents would turn to their children and children to their parents. Joel describes the Spirit of God being poured out on all humanity, young and old, men and women, Jew and Gentile. Amos paints the vivid scene of justice rolling down like a river, filling all the lowest places. And Daniel envisioned the world's beast-like empires of violence being overcome by a simple, unarmed human being, a new generation of humanity. In the centuries between the time of the prophets and the birth of Jesus, these prophetic dreams never completely died, but they were never completely fulfilled either. Yes, conditions for the Jews improved under the Persian, but still things weren't as good as the prophets promised. Next, the Greek and Seleucid empires took control of the region, and for a time the Jews threw off their oppressors. But their independence was brief, and the full dream of the prophets remained unfulfilled. Next, the Romans seized power, subjugating and humiliating the Jews and testing their hope as never before. Yet, their dream lived on. It remained alive in the people like Elizabeth and Zechariah, Mary and Joseph and Anna and Simeon, and even among humble shepherds who lived at the margin of society. To be alive in the venture of Jesus is to have a desire, a dream, a hope for the future. It is to translate that hope for the future into action in the present, and to keep acting in light of it, no matter the disappointments, no matter the setbacks and delays. So let us begin this Advent season by lighting a candle for the prophets who proclaim their hopes, desires, and dreams. Let us keep their flame glowing strong in our hearts, even now. And the chapter ends. I love this chapter, especially during the pandemic. And I'm so glad we're in the season of Advent, the 4 Sundays that leading up to Christmas. It's such a beautiful, powerful time to sit and reflect about our faith. It's supposed to be a mini Lent. Advent is a way of kind of reflection and self-sacrificing, trying to understand our faith at a deeper level. And the first Sunday is a Sunday of hope. And there's this whole chapter, as I said, is about hope. There's a question that that McLaren asks at the end of the chapter. He says, share a story about a time when you kept hope or lost hope. And, for me, that's profound. Think back to your life. When was there a time where you kept hope or lost hope? Because, what this teaches me, I think, is that it's a choice. We have a choice whether to keep hope or lose hope. And, I think this is important for us, especially in the middle of the pandemic. This is like a hopeless time. We're sitting in darkness and in the shadow of death. And it would be so easy to throw in the towel and to give up hope. But we can't do that. We have to be resilient people, courageous people, yes, hopeful people. A vaccine is just around the corner. I want to tell a story of hope, a hope that we are yearning for the day, just as the prophet said, of a future to be fulfilled where God is going to be with us and to restore us. I have a hope in the future. I have a hope this first Sunday of Advent. Thank you for listening to this chapter. I hope you're enjoying the book. This is Steve. Take care.